Fight fans, fight fans, fight fans. This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News. And yes again, we are here live to get into the business of boxing. Thank you guys for showing up at my live stream yesterday. The thousands of you that showed, stopped by, said hi, Bryce Productions, and made it what it was. Okay. Now we talk about Deontay the Bronze Bomber Wilder. Of course, he fought in Kansas Friday, and he showed us a bit of a lackluster performance, and we need to talk about what his next moves are, okay? But before we do that, it's about the people, you guys. So first of all, Kenneth K9D5, retire before he gets hurt. His power is not there no more. You seen that in the fight, and it was a tune-up. Cedric Miller, 4'6", a puncher always has a chance. 1 second needed in 10 rounds. Tony Lyons in the building. Yo, Big T in the house and cooking scampi with chips and vegetables, and it's hot AF here in the UK. And as for Wilder, I waited till his fight and now says he definitely is finished. Power is gone. Ooh, Mama Lou. Hey, Kurt, how's it going? It's going great, Mama Lou. What it do? He's taking up fights before he takes any major fights. Okay, and that's from J.D. Walker, the boss talker, 7199. Mama Lou, why does YouTube send notifications saying you're live when there's 30 minutes to go? No wonder people miss the lives. Didn't know that. That's something that they need to work on. Troy Graham, 4937, for his own safety retirement. Okay. Bill Keaveney in the building, 1526. People will pretend that Wilder has a future in boxing, but he is almost 40 and lost the one punch he had. Herndon was handpicked and Wilder still looked like garbage. Mama Lou, okay, dialogue in the trenches. Hopefully he calls it a day. Someone good will mess Wilder up. Absolutely, but Wilder definitely is damaged. Someone said he should retire and become a commentator, says Mama Lou. That's not a bad idea. In fact, that's really not a bad idea, to counter that real quick. Deontay Wilder, I remember him. They used to bring him to the UK on Sky Sports. And he wasn't a bad commentator because he's very verbal. Wilder of that time was very verbal, and he didn't sound like a blithering idiot. He sounds a lot better than someone like Danny Dubois would do in a situation like that. He's not a comment. He doesn't have commentating material, someone like Daniel, but Deontay does, because Deontay's, he was outspoken, and you know what I mean? And no, he was a pretty good asset to those cards. So yeah, I remember that. I remember he was on the Klitschko Joshua card where he commentated. So yeah, it was nice. So that's something that he could do. Sean Porter does it. And it's crazy, man. I had a dream about Sean Porter fighting last night. Craziness. You know what I mean? He was going back into the ring. Wilder telling everyone all the excuses while fighting Tyson. Yeah, I had seen that short today. Kurt, Wilder won't even make a good gatekeeper. Well, I don't know. I think Wilder, I'm not convinced that his power is there. That's the problem. And if he doesn't have power, I don't think I would want to see Wilder in there with any live dogs, especially like, a Zhang or a Parker. Because you remember, these guys are up there on that totem pole. Everybody's climbing to the top. Okay. So that's what we're looking at. Everybody's climbing and they're waiting patiently to get their opportunity. Whereas Wilder is a guy that just came back after a year layoff, and keep in mind, Wilder, was fighting battles outside the ring, which, people betraying him and stuff like that. Pretty much whoever was close to him, maybe his ex-significant other or his brother or someone that was close to him, he had something to say about. Bryce Productions, high. Wilder will box. Wilder will box Francis next and kick him out and knock him out cold. Well, that could work. Revelation TV in the building. Counterpunch to you, brother. Troy Graham, what's up, brother? For Wilder's safety, his only choice must be retirement. I don't know. I think I have to remind people on something. I remember AJ in 2023, and he fought 3 times. And he fought Jermaine Franklin. And Jermaine Franklin, he didn't look all that good. He looked timid. He looked apprehensive. And, he didn't really look great because people expected him to get the knockout. And it went 12 rounds. And this was after the meltdown with Usyk when losing to Usyk. So he didn't look good at all. And everyone was criticizing AJ. But that was his first fight with a new trainer, and that's how we were with AJ. So I can expect people to say this about Wilder now. Even though Wilder, his skill set is not there, but the power is a totally different issue. Just because I said I haven't seen the evidence of power doesn't mean he doesn't have it. Okay, so because I know nothing about Tyrell Herndon, and Wilder, he looks like he's in good shape, but for me, he may be overtraining. You know what I mean? 491 rounds. I don't even know, who does that? Who does 491 rounds? Usyk doesn't do that many rounds. And the rounds that he does I think 12, 15. How many rounds did Usyk do that they claim he did? That's why he was in so hell of a shape. But it wasn't nothing near 500 rounds. It was more like 15 rounds, like 15, 12, 15 rounds, something like that. He did 15 rounds instead of 12. Imagine Wilder is commentating on Fury's next fight. Here comes the dog, Fury, who cheated me to this day. Yeah, I could see Wilder throwing cheap shots in there. I could see him throwing cheap shots in there. Wilder's inactivity is on him. He thinks he only needs to show up. His ego is in the way. Well, he needs to do more than show up because you're 39 years old. You're an aged fighter. What that means is you have to show people that they need to respect you. If you don't show them, they're not going to know. And in fact, they're going to beat you up. See, if you're an old, that's the beauty of someone like Derek Chisora. Derek Chisora don't come in there expecting any handouts. He comes in there and he attempts to execute exactly how he did 10 years ago. There is nothing changed about Derek Chisora, probably his strength and conditioning, because believe it or not, Derek Chisora looks a lot better than he did then physically, because you can tell that he's been working with a coach or, a strength and conditioning coach that got him a lot better, because the old Chisora, the one with the mohawk, that dude had tits at one point. He wasn't really in all that good a shape. He just was an active fighter. Okay, so, but even Derek knows, hey, you got to get with these young guys and you got to take it to them with whatever you have left. Because if you don't, they're going to run over you because they're not going to respect you. They're going to see the last performances you had and they're going to judge you off those last performances. And why not? That's what they have. That's what he or they produced to us, the last performance. You know what I mean? Now, people could give you a surprise because of whatever else was going on with Wilder. Hopefully, that's the case with Wilder. If Wilder comes back in his second fight, he's supposed to fight 3 times this year, similar to what AJ did in 2023. He had a new trainer. Wilder got a new trainer. So think about what I'm saying. Those differences are there. He's starting to hook off the jab. Did it look great? No. Did it supposed to look great? No. But I think people get it because he picked an opponent, is not a live dog. He's supposed to look a lot better, but this man ain't been in the ring for a while. I do question 491 rounds. It's kind of, 491 rounds. How long did it take him to spar 491 rounds? That's a lot of rounds. It's crazy. High five, bear shit, Elohim in the building, counterpunch to you. Put one and let them both show us something. Put Wilder in with Moses? No, I don't want to see that fight. Hell, I don't want to see him fight White. I don't want to see that fight either, to be fair. Wilder versus Moses, good one. Nah, because see, Moses is on a mission. That's a young Terminator. That's a well-oiled young machine that's ready to fulfill objectives. It can't be reasoned with. It can't be bargained with. It doesn't feel pity or pain or remorse, and it will not stop ever until you are dead. That's Moses Atoma. And I don't want Moses in there with Wilder. Wilder's 39 years old. I don't want to see older fighters fight younger fighters. I don't want to see that. However, sometimes that's the only avenue for these older fighters. But that doesn't mean I want to see it, because there's enough fights that didn't happen in our time of watching these guys fight to get fights of someone equivalent to the age bracket. You know what I'm saying? Like Miller's 36 years old. He's 39. That's compromisable. You know what I mean? That's a fight. Joshua Wilder, Wilder White. Fights like that should have happened versus these mix and match type fights, these landslide like Moses and Dillian White. Bro, Dillian White fighting Moses Atoma, I don't think it's a good matchup. I think it's a sacrificial, lambish-like fight that they're putting Dillian White on the panel because nobody expects him to win. So if they didn't expect him to win, what was he expected to do? Lose. He was going to expect to get his ass whooped at 36, 37. You see what I mean? Why you got guys like Jarrell Miller that he could fight. You see what I'm saying? You got guys like that he could tangle ass with. Frank Sanchez, Michael Hunter. These guys are in their mid-30s. So why are we putting them in there with these young guys? And they're just appetizers for these young guys to build their resume, where those guys are a shell of themselves. I don't like to see shit like that. I don't. Now, I will say this. I do respect the code. I respect the code. Since these old guys are taking these damn fights, Dillian White, they need to get in there and they need to get their ass whooped to know that they don't belong there no more. Even though I'm against the fight, because I think it's I don't think it's an even fight at all. But I do feel if you're going to go in there and you're trying to show what you still have, you need to go in there with somebody that convince you that you shouldn't be around no more. Because once Moses goes in there and lays you out cold, you should be considered a retirement. The thing about Dillian White, though, you hit him in the chin, it's like turning a light off. And that may not be enough. No, Dillian White needs his ass whooped. You need to beat someone into submission, into the idea like, bro, I don't belong here. That dude was faster than me. This dude hit me 5 times and I couldn't hit him once. You know what I mean? You have to have someone doubting you leaving out of that. They have to leave that arena thinking to myself, like, man, this is some tough shit. This shit is hard. I can't do it no more. That kid was younger, stronger, faster, hungrier, and I ain't that. Let me go home and chill. By the way, I got a headache. Hey, Kurt, I think it's time for Wilder to retire. The one-punch power left him after his 3rd fight with Fury. Did it, though? I don't think it left him then. I think because he was 238 pounds. Speed is power. So the faster he could deliver the shot that was knocking people out, the more concussive those punches were, not the heavier he was. So we figured that out, or they figured it out eventually. When I've been telling these guys for 6 years, yo, Wilder needs to lose weight, man, because he came in the Ortiz fight. The only thing that helped him with Ortiz was an old, worn out tool. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't in there with somebody that could actually move. Luis Ortiz's legs were shot to shit when he fought him. It's just Luis Ortiz is a good counterpuncher because of the experience that he had. But Wilder was still too heavy. Wilder was too heavy to go in there, but he thought, because I caught him in the 7th round, I can do that with anybody. And that's not the case. And he found that out in the trilogy. He found that out quick. He found that out in the rematch, that he was too big for Tyson. Tyson's a bigger built guy. His build is different from Wilder. Wilder has skinny legs. What do you think that means? Do you think that means he needs to pile on a bunch of muscle on that skinny ass frame? He has a broad chest, but it doesn't mean that he should be walking around with this extra weight, because it doesn't suit him. Just like Dillian White getting all big and burly and shit up top, and then when he throws a punch, his ass is damn near falling over because he's too heavy with his upper body, because he gained too much weight. You guys see what I'm saying? So these guys, boxing is not about bodybuilding. It's not about adding muscle. You're at the heaviest weight class anyhow. What works for you is how your body style is, period. Is created, is structured. That's what works for you. Not, hey, let me pick on a bunch of muscle, Anthony Joshua. You don't do that. You don't need that. And let me ask you guys a little something. Do you think Anthony's punching power changed when he gained weight? Let me ask you this question. When AJ got his ass whooped by Andy Ruiz, right? And he was big and he was burly. He was like 250, right? Then he came back in Saudi Arabia and he had dropped 20 pounds. You guys remember that? And he looked sunken and he didn't look like a bodybuilding freak. Do you think that affected his power? No. If anything, he was faster and he was still able to, box Andy Ruiz, big fat ass head off with no neck. He turned Andy Ruiz into a bottleneck, and Andy Ruiz come in 300 and some odd pounds, 283, I know, but yeah, he was bigger than that. Hey, brother, sending good thoughts from the UK. Memorial Garden 1664, counterpunch to you, brother. Wilder is just a country bumpkin. Damn. XK Shot Z. What's good, Kurt? Counterpunch to you. Everything's good. Dillian White will knock out Wilder. Joshua knocks out Wilder. Even Chisora stops Wilder at this point. I say each one of those, Troy Graham, each one of those fights should be made over somebody like Moses Atoma, Jaya Pataya, Richard Torrey. You know what I mean? And who's those new guys? Bakaril Jololov. Those guys. Those guys have no business with those older guys. AJ didn't lift like you seem to think, Kurt. He gets big just by doing normal training. He don't just hit the dumbbells, to be honest. He hits the weights. He don't hit the weights that often. I don't know. But I've seen him lift weights. I've seen him squat 300 pounds. I've seen that type of stuff, which is not unknown for a boxer. I'm just saying it's not necessarily necessary. That's what I'm saying. When are you going to do this phone in thing you talked about? The X Spaces, I have X Spaces and I have no idea how to use it. But I do need another equipment that I need to purchase. But that is actually going to happen. It depends which AJ comes to fight. AJ showed us why you don't mess with the young guys versus Dubois. Well, yeah, that was a disappointing performance. It always will be. Because everybody's talking about Danny Dubois. And Daniel Dubois did what he's supposed to do, but what did Daniel Dubois do any different than his other fights? I mean, besides quit. Yeah. But what did he do other than that? What did Daniel Dubois really do? You see what I mean? Like, Daniel Dubois is the same type of fighter. You know what I mean? He's the Frank Bruno-like guy. And I know, yeah, you should give Daniel credit, and I'm giving him credit. But my question is, was he any different based on what he did? I know Don Charles just started working with Danny Dubois when he fought Usyk or whatnot. But I just don't see, I think what stuck out in the AJ fight is AJ. Because I don't think it's what Danny Dubois did, is what AJ didn't do. You know what I mean? That's why I was so disappointed. I'm like, okay, well, maybe this guy has made too much money, too much success. You know what I mean? He owns businesses all over London. He got money, endorsements, money coming in from all over the place. How hungry is he really? You know what I mean? So that's because that fight showed me, because he looked like he just really didn't care no more. And I seen this kind of behavior that happened. See, one thing about Wilder, we talk about, well, his power ain't there and he ain't this, ain't that. That dude ain't fought in over a year, for one. I need to see what he looks like in the second fight. I need to give Wilder a benefit of the doubt, because Wilder's not talking like someone that's no longer trying to fight. Joshua was, because you remember Joshua was like, well, I'm fighting smarter now instead of how I used to fight. Well, that's how you got your reputation, based on how you did fight. The Klitschko fight, the Povetkin fight, the Dominique Brazil fight, the Charles Martin fight. You know what I mean? Those fights, you got your reputation from whooping ass, and then he looks back like, I don't want to do that and be that guy no more. Well, that means some of your hunger is gone. Whereas Wilder, he's talking a good game, but at least he's still talking like the desire. I want a body. I want to put someone in the grave. Yeah, he said that same shit in 2018. So you see the similarities. The differences is AJ ain't talking like he's that aggressive no more, because maybe he doesn't want it like that no more. He wants to fight smarter instead of harder. So that means if it is a time where he has to bite down, right, like we should have saw in the Dubois fight, we didn't get. You see what I mean? What's up with the grown man having these mental love affairs with men who don't know them? Scans rants. Okay. Facts can be used as an excuse. There are no excuses. They are both poor versions of their previous selves, but Wilder always gets a pass. Nobody gets a pass here. Not in the trenches. I mean, Wilder was supposed to look better. People expected him to look better. The punches that he landed, they didn't seem to have the same steam on them. But again, Zhilei Zhang was a guy that has never been down by a shot besides AJ in the amateurs. But in the pros, he went down from body work, because I get Cabello, punched him to the gut and damn near made him shit himself. He ain't never been through that type of punishment by somebody that knows how to chop that tree down. That's Zhang. But Zhang was a guy that can take shots. See, he took everything that Joe Joyce threw, and Joe Joyce couldn't do enough to hurt him, but he could hurt Joe Joyce, and he cracked that damn chin wide open. And down goes Joe Joyce. I felt bad for Joe, because Joe didn't have to take that fight, but he messed around and he found out. I want to see Paul versus Wilder. That wouldn't be bad. And Wilder would do it for about 10 mil. Though that would set him up. And Jake Paul in his post-press conference, because I seen it yesterday, he was saying like, hey, Wilder, I can fight at 210, 215, because hell, Wilder ain't that big and he was knocking people out. So, it made a lot of sense. More heavyweights should work on body punches. Caballo knows this. I'm anticipating Caballo's next fight. That's what I'm excited for. Who the hell is he going to fight next? You know. But, I mean, Caballo is a guy that, you know, he's probably like the new Triple G. People will get the memo once he kicks a few more asses. And once he does that, we'll see. Scans Ranch, you wanting to see Paul versus Wilder proves my point. He should retire. Well, here's the thing about retirement. And you got to say the same thing about Wilder you say about everybody else. Wilder needs to be beaten into retirement. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. So, you know, Wilder was knocking out guys that were ranked very, 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 very far out there. But eventually he had to step up. They had to bring it back a notch. So he had to then have a tune-up, which I agree with. Kurt, who wins? Deontay Wilder versus Joe Joyce. Good fight. But that's a fight that makes sense. Why? Because Joe Joyce is not that guy he used to be. Well, hell, neither is Deontay Wilder, right? Supposedly now. So why not get a fight like that? Joe Joyce is damn near 40 years old. Wilder is damn near 40 years old. That fight makes sense. You know what I mean? That's some junior legacy league shit, right? Joe Joyce versus Deontay Wilder. Now, that would be a pretty good fight. Derek Chisora, why not? You know, but those are the fights that should happen. Andy Ruiz versus Deontay Wilder. Remember him? So, yeah, I mean, a lot of these fights should happen because these guys are in their mid to late 30s or damn near early 40s. Kubrat Pulev, Mahmoud Char, you know, shit like that. And those fights should happen because it's enough of those fights. It's just people are so caught up with the new. What can the new do to this guy that's fading? Which I don't think that's fair. We see too much of that shit. We see a young guy and they put him in there with Dillian White. Dillian White ain't fought since last year, and he fought a guy that ain't fought in forever. Christian Hammer, Ebenezer Teta, you know, put Dillian White in there with Deontay Wilder. But it's too late because he's already a sacrificial lamb that's strung up for Moses Atoma. And Moses Atoma is going to show him, hopefully, why he shouldn't be fighting no more, or why he shouldn't be fighting somebody that damn young and fresh. Joyce beats Wilder. If he can't hurt Joyce, Joyce is going to demolish Wilder. And he's going to just beat him into submission. Because one thing about Joyce, he ain't stopped his punch output. You know what I'm saying? He might not have that chin no more, but he ain't, no. Joe Joyce is going to keep swinging. And he's going to swing and fight until you knock him out. That's one thing that you can respect from Joe Joyce to this day. He may not have that durability factor, right? But he has the ability to keep punching because he's going to come in shape. He's going to come knowing that he has to throw punches. You know, he's kind of like a Adam Kalnaki. Remember him? And this dude ain't won a fight in 5 years. And that's sad. This dude was 20-0 with 15 KOs. He got wins over Charles Martin, Gerald Washington, guys like that. You know, but yeah, he messed around and fought Helenius and then got knocked out by Helenius the second time. And then he kept getting beat. Yeah. I hope White upsets the odds. That would be dope. I would be so happy for him, you know, and it just shows you, though, cherry picks go wrong. Because, you know, that was a cherry pick. See, throwing Moses in there with Dillian White, knowing Dillian White's older, knowing Dillian White's been injured and he's been prolonged and he pulled out another fight because of another injury, supposedly, and then you throw him in there with Moses Atoma. So, you know, yeah, they expected that cherry pick. That's all that is. And I'm not talking bad on Moses, but I understand what they're doing. Frank is putting them in there with people that are willing to get in there with Moses. It ain't Lawrence Akali, is it? Hell no. He even admitted, no, Moses gave me nightmares dealing with that young Slavic Brit that knows how to hit bars. Herndon was a cherry pick. Absolutely he was. Kurt, I think Joyce versus Wilder would be a good fight. Yeah. See, it's not a thing. Like, you can't tell a grown man he can't and shouldn't do what he loves to do. You see what I mean? Like, Wilder's going to fight until he doesn't want to fight no more. Just like telling Derek Chisora, we ain't told, like, nobody could tell him, yo, bro, sit down. And we've been saying, yo, Derek, you really need to retire. But look at him now. He kept fighting because he kept telling everybody, you know what? I don't have to do what you say. I'm my own man. Is he a little punchy? Yeah, he's a little punchy. You can tell. You hear Derek, you know, man, I just want some Five Guys burgers. I mean, he's just kind of got a swag with it because he's kind of, you know what I mean? He sways with his words, but understand, but in between the sways or slurs. See what I'm saying? So yeah, he's suffering from a little bit of the CTE, but at the same time, he's the number one IBF heavyweight contender right now, waiting for his opportunity for a title shot. Oh yeah. And Del Boy is just crazy, Sketch Ranch. You're right about that. He's a crazy dude. And, you know, and his mentality is honorable. You know what I mean? I respect it. Like, hey, as long as my wife loves me, man, I'm good. Like, damn. Cool. You know? Do you think Wilder brings a new trainer in his team? Yeah, it's Don House. So if you didn't know that's Don House. You know, and I think Don House started working more on his jab and his left hook. Well, his left hook off the jab. And you could see that he was working on that. And I think what it is in a fight like Herndon, he didn't have too much to worry about coming back. So since he didn't have enough to worry about coming back, he could work on that jab and, you know, hooking off that jab. Bah, bah, because you've seen him do that a lot. So with jab, left hook, right hand. You know what I mean? So you've seen a lot of that in that fight. Even though it didn't look as pretty as how DeVille did it, but it was still something that I feel that he was working on with somebody that he could work on that with. Somebody that didn't give him problems or chances of getting caught, because some fighters are slicker. You see what I mean? So better yet, Clarissa Shields versus Wilder, I bet she wins. Clarissa, no, bro, stop that. I'm not doing that. We're not bringing women into men's fighting. No, even though Clarissa's ego is this big, I don't want to do that. Clarissa got chinned by a guy that is mediocre, but he's a man versus a woman. You have to understand those are reasons. Weight classes are one thing. Gender's a whole different issue. You know, so I don't even really want to go there with that. That's Clarissa. And people saying that type of shit. Oh, I bet you she can beat Wilder. No, stop. Yeah, but if Chisora hurt him, Wilder will knock him out. Well, I mean, somebody got it. With a fight like Chisora versus Wilder, we have to understand what sport we're watching. We're watching boxing. This shit's brutal. This shit is physical. This is violence. So seeing someone like Chisora take on someone like Wilder. Wilder's not an inside fighter, but Chisora is. So it's either Chisora's going to get in his ass close to mid-range, or Wilder's going to catch him from the outside coming in. You know, or bring it to him coming from outside inward with one of those scuds, if he can still land those scuds. Kubrat versus Wilder. Yeah, that's a pretty good fight, and it's a step up because that's a person with a name. Because remember, Kubrat Pulev, let's look at his losses. Kubrat got beat first by Vladimir. Vladimir beat Kubrat Pulev. He had that one loss for a very long time. He carried on. He got his bearings back. He got the, what was it? Was it the IBF, I believe? But then he got injured. So, because he was going to fight Joshua, because Joshua had the IBF belt that he got from Charles Martin. Well, he suffered a chest injury, so he couldn't fight for the mandatory that he was in line for. So Joshua fought Takam, right? But then Pulev comes back, beats, I think it was Dinu. I think he beat Bogdan Dinu, then kissed Jenny Shisu and got in all that trouble, grabbed her, hey, come here, kissed her. And then, that started a lot of mess. And then he gets beat by AJ. So, you know what I mean? And that was in 2020. So then he gets beat by Chisora. So I think he has 3 losses, right? So, and the Chisora fight wasn't a pushover. That was a fight. If you want to see a nice little scrap, watch Kubrat Pulev versus Derek Chisora. That was a nice fight, man. Because Pulev is a guy, he has this spiraling, sneaky like jab. Well, Chisora, being pressure fighter that he is, bruiser, brawler, he didn't let Pulev set up that jab. So Pulev was forced to fight this dude. He was forced to fight Chisora, but Chisora was a better fighter than Pulev. Pulev was a better boxer, but he couldn't box because Chisora wouldn't let him. He was in his ass. Pause. Right? So he was, that was a good scrap, bro. But Derek Chisora, I think they were in the UK somewhere. So, but that was a good fight, bro. It wasn't any like, hey, Chisora just whooped him and beat. No. Those guys fought. Those guys fought like they had some business to handle personally. Andy Ruiz versus Wilder. I would think Andy would knock out Wilder at this point. I don't think Wilder was be ready for that fight. And you know what? It's probably a good thing that he didn't fight Andy Ruiz. Because just like he got his ass whooped by Joseph Parker, he probably would have got his ass whooped by Andy Ruiz too. Because Andy Ruiz is a guy that has explosive power. The only problem he has, he's obese and he has short arms. And he doesn't cut off the ring, but he doesn't do that because he's obese, because he's not where he needs to really be physically. I don't think he never will be. Unfortunately, I think that's going to be one of the flaws. Just like Zhang will never really have the stamina that we feel he should need, but that's just probably Zhang. Miller versus Wilder is a must. Miller versus Wilder is a fight that I think should happen early next year, and I think whoever wins that fight should fight AJ on his comeback fight. You see what I'm saying? Because AJ's just not going to go just fight a bunch of Americans, but the only way that he's going to fight Miller is Miller has to take out Wilder to Wilder not to be a factor. You see what I'm saying? They have enough beef. And I want the beef to be explained. I want the bullshit to come out. Miller versus Wilder should be next. And it has to be a reward for who wins. So Turki Al-Sheikh is friends with both. He needs to throw those guys of some M's to let them get in the ring. $3-4 million for Miller, $3-4 million for Wilder. Get in that ring. Let's do the thing. Let's see who wants it. Let's see who wants to go to that next level. Because those guys, Miller versus Wilder, they have interest. I'm going to. Hold on a second. I got to do this because I got a Patreon coming. Okay, cool. Want to see Franklin in another fight soon. I think he deserves another decent fight. You know something? I think Franklin did it for the hustle. He did it for the come up. See, Jermaine Franklin was smart. Jermaine Franklin, he was still working. He pulled a Joe Smith. You guys remember him, the light heavyweight that hits hard, that knocked Bernard Hopkins' ass out of the ring, that made him retire, to get his mind right, to let him know he doesn't belong here no more. Bars, that guy. He still was working as a construction worker. So was Jermaine Franklin. So what Franklin did was, look, I'm going to keep my damn job, but then I'm going to train when I get off. So he took that fight with Dillian White, went 12 rounds, hurt Dillian White in that fight, I think round 8. He caught him with a straight right, and then buckled White. And I was like, oh, snap, But then he showed how durable he was. That's how he got the AJ fight. And then he got paid. And then from that, he quit his job, then fought the other guy over in that Gibraltar area on a DAZN card, fought that, then went back and then fought at home because now he's built some momentum and got some duckies behind him, and now he's good. So I don't think Jermaine Franklin is really hurting like people think he's hurting. You see what I mean? He's a success story, but it's on a smaller scale because he kind of did it under the radar. Because when he fought AJ wasn't a champion, so he wasn't on that champion status. So he wasn't on that radar for someone to be worried about. But he was, and he did make enough money to benefit from the opportunities that he received fighting Dillian White and Anthony Joshua and that undefeated guy. You know, I forget who he fought. But he fought him. Then he fought in his hometown, and then he's chilling. But I do agree. I do want to see Jermaine Franklin back again. But, you know, I think with someone that made that type of money, he's not as hungry as he used to be, knowing that he has probably a couple million in the bank. You see what I mean? If you got a couple $1 million in the bank, you know that's your backup. You know that's your safety net. You know that you don't have to worry about a lot of things. So, hell, if, let's say, shit happens, the unit goes out at your house. No problem. Get you another unit. 10, 15 grand. What's that to 2 million? Hell, you can borrow that and pay yourself back. Stuff like that. Those type of things. Or he's probably got his own business. If he's smart, that's one of those things that you can do. But yeah, I think Jermaine Franklin is not as hungry as most people. He's just not, you know, he didn't go all like Andy Ruiz thinking this shit was going to last forever either. You see what I'm saying? And that's what Andy's fault was. Andy Ruiz versus Jermaine Franklin should be a good fight, and I think they should get it on because they're two durable guys, about the same size. You know what I mean? And I think Andy punches a lot harder than Jermaine Franklin. He's more explosive, but I think that still would be a good fight. Yeah. Wilder normal shape destroyed Hooney. Me personally, the speed of his snap, Wilder has power is deeply impacted. I ain't seen Wilder punch like he did the first Fury fight. Joe Smith was riding high until Beterbiev folded him. Yeah, bro, that was Beterbiev showed him like you may be a badass, you may know how to punch, but there's levels to being a badass that knows how to punch. There's levels to punchers because what people don't understand about Beterbiev also has boxing ability. See, him and Bivol, they trained in the same place. It's just Beterbiev was in on a different level. He was like the captain where Bivol was, you know, younger, learning. He wasn't on that level, but he observed the captain, you know, that was on a different level because he was older. Beterbiev is 40 years old. Well, he will be 40 in January. So, or is he 40 now? He's one of them. I think all Wilder's confidence is gone, and he just rusty fight 2 more bums for confidence and ring rust, and then he may get his speed back. Well, that's fine. I think this is the rebuilding process of Deontay Wilder right now. I think it's premature for us to say, oh, looks like garbage. He's supposed to look like garbage. This dude has been taking experimental drugs. He's going through legal shit with someone that decided to put a restraining order on him based on something he might do. I think that's bullshit. I've always thought it was bullshit because if he was that bad, you should have done that then. It's like any of those other things. Like, okay, well, if you're at work or you're at somewhere and, you know, someone essays you, you don't wait, you know? Beterbiev prime version, it's horror of the night. Yeah, Beterbiev is a beast, bro. Beterbiev showed you, like, you can't just go in on Dimitri Bivol. He will beat the shit out of you. He will box your face off. He will hit you 7, 8 times, and you can't hit him at all. See, Bivol and Beterbiev beat everybody in the division. The Yards, the Smiths, you know, Callum Smith, Joe Smith, Vosnick, Sullivan Barrera. Remember him? You know, they beat everybody in the division, those two, and it was only left those two. So they had to fight. Very little of Wilder's problems are bad luck. Most of it is self-inflicted. No, I agree on that. I agree on that. I do agree on that. And that's why people, Deontay Wilder fighting Jarrell Miller has to happen. I think the backstory behind those two should eventually come out. That Curtis Jackson 50 Cent proclaim that Jarrell Miller was sleeping with Telly Swift, that has to come out. If it doesn't come out, it'll be like something that was said that's not that people are uncomfortable saying. I have a Patreon that I'm about to drop after this live stream about that issue. If Malik was still Wilder's trainer, he would have lost. I don't know. I don't know, because it's hard to say and put that on Malik Scott, especially based on the opposition that he was in there with when he was with Malik Scott. Tyrell Herndon is no Zilly Zhang, nor Joseph Parker. So we're saying, oh, well, he'd have lost. Well, he was in there with some live dogs. My thing is, a lot of people thought that I just hated Wilder. Bro, that is not the truth. I think a lot of people are very sensitive when it came to Wilder, to the point which I don't understand why they were so sensitive. I can say the same shit about Lennox Lewis and nobody gives a shit. You say that about Wilder, somebody loses their mind. And it's not because I dislike Wilder. I just knew with the skill set that Wilder had, when he steps up in opposition, he's going to get beat. Not that I wanted him to. See, there's a difference when someone, man, I can't wait for him to go in there and get his ass whooped. That's different, because that's something that I desire based on my dislike for him. I don't have a dislike for Wilder. I wasn't happy when he got his ass whooped by Tyson Fury. You see what I mean? I saw it coming. So sometimes it feels good to be right, because based on what your hypothesis is, your educated guess, that was going to happen. But did it mean I wanted Wilder to stay there? No. But he didn't help himself with all the other bullshit, because so many people made excuses about him and made it easy for that ass whooping to occur, because it didn't happen naturally. So they claimed. So then we have another issue. Now we're in a state of delusion with a person that can't admit he got beat. So if he couldn't admit he got beat, then he'll never learn anything. Then he got rid of Mark Breland, the one guy that actually knew how to train him but wasn't allowed to train him. He was getting screwed all the way around. So Wilder is a guy, though, I want to see him come back. I wanted to see the Joshua fight still. I don't like someone getting their heart broke by some bitch that didn't want them. You know what I'm saying? Like those type of things happen to everybody, anybody. You know what I mean? Everybody plays the fool. It's no exception to the rule. It may be factual, it may be cruel, but everybody plays the fool, right? That happens. And it happened to Wilder. So you just want the best for Wilder, dude. Test himself. Yeah, I just wanted the best for him, but I don't think they wanted to test him. They wanted to protect him. Shelly Finkel looked at Wilder more as a son than he did a promoter. Hell yeah, I know the song, bro. It's old school over here. My parents are older. Who got done worse, Bivol or Wilder? What do you mean? Who got done worse, Bivol or Wilder? As far as what? Yeah. Byronic. 19-133-4. Yeah, bars. Joshua Usyk Wilder, normal fight after over career for Deontay. Well, Deontay's not quitting, and I do wonder if it's his desire to keep fighting based on what he owes or what he has to pay for. Because you remember when Wilder, before all this, when he was supposedly in negotiations with Andy Ruiz, Wilder was saying, man, I make $1 million a month, or I'm good and I'm straight and I'm set and I don't need to worry about nothing. Remember that? You don't talk like that no more. He talks like he has to fight because he has to pay for some shit that he probably didn't anticipate. But he needs to fight Jarrell Miller. He needs to fight Jarrell Miller. Jarrell Miller needs to fight Wilder, and then the winner needs to fight AJ, because they're in the same era. And the same era of people need to get it on. Period. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to see these young guys, this new blood, sweeping up all these names of these older guys that have no business fighting these guys. Let these guys fight their own age peers. We see too much of that shit in boxing. You bring this old guy out that ain't fought in a while, and then you throw him in there with a live dog that's hungry and ready and willing to prove a point. That's how people get hurt. That's how people get damaged. That's how the CTE factor increases when you put somebody in there that damn young and strong against somebody that's not. That's almost like some bullying shit to me. Miller beats Wilder all day and AJ beats them both. Maybe. But if he can't knock out Jarrell Miller's going to maul Wilder. I could see that fight with my eyes closed. Jarrell Miller's going to maul Wilder because he's going to start throwing roundhouses and he's going to hit Wilder, and Wilder is going to try to put his hands up and try to block those big-ass shots coming from somebody that's throwing punches with arms that probably weigh about 80 pounds apiece. Imagine that. Two big-ass meat limbs swinging at you, laying punishment on you, kicking you, beating you, all that stuff. He's going to maul him. Brandino TNL. I meant, who done work? Who's done? Oh, I got you. Okay, I got you. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat. No, it was definitely Wilder. Definitely Wilder. Well, because what she did was, she was cute. I mean, both of those women are pretty. They're attractive, but they're some bitches. They are. I mean, the reason why, what I didn't like about Bivens' wife turned the children against him. I didn't see Telly Swift do that. So you should probably, like, Bivens had a very vindictive. She was more vindictive. Telly Swift, I think, was an opportunist, and I think that she was probably she was too intelligent for someone like Wilder, and Wilder just thought that she was going to love him and not judge him based on where he was from. Where Telly Swift, Telly Swift was studying to be a registered nurse, so she wasn't a moron. You know what I mean? And then she met Wilder. So the rest I'll explain on Patreon because I have to break that down. But I think she plateaued with Wilder. You know what I'm saying? Versus Bivens' wife. Bivens' wife just wanted to get back at him. She praised Better Biev. Artur. Canelo. I'm like, what? Me and Canelo? I'm like, what? Like she was, I think Bivens had the crazier. I think that Bivens had the crazier in situation. Whereas Wilder, Wilder might have done some stuff, but I don't really know. I wasn't there, But I will say this: if Telly Swift was dealing with boxers before Wilder, that should have been a red flag for Wilder, and he was a fool to mess with someone that already deals with athletes, especially certain tier athletes. Bill Keaveney, 1526. What does Roy Jones say about Miller, Wilder, and AJ? Okay. This is what he says. Well, first of all, AJ, he needs to rebuild. Wilder needs to rebuild. Miller, he's still there. He's still talking trash. He still think that he's, the cash cow. He has something to prove. He got to prove that he got to stay off the dope. If he stay off the dope, here's hope. But with AJ and Wilder, they still need to fight. And I think they should have a tournament, because the tournament should be, the battle of the Americans. Which American wanted more? So if Miller fight Wilder, they're going to have to fight it, duke it out to fight AJ to get that jackpot. But they both had an opportunity once upon a time. Miller blew it because he had a big pharmacy in him. He was all juiced up. But then you also had Wilder. Wilder turned down the money. So he listened to everybody else around him instead of taking the opportunity for himself. See, if it was me, I'd have took that opportunity. I'd have took that $100 million. I'd have told Al where to go. I'd have told Shelly where to go. I'd have told all of them where to go. So I would have took it. But he didn't take it because he listened to everybody else that thought he had the best interest. But the best interest wasn't for him to take that money. So they thought. So guess what? He got to prove himself too. So he's just trying to get back to where he was. And Miller trying to get back to where he was. So they're going to have to duke it out, fight it out, going out back, get it on, to see who really want it on. That's what they got to do. So whoever going to want AJ is going to get AJ. But they got to whoop ass and they got to pay. That's all I'm going to say. Coming from RJ. Bars. Yeah, man. So that's Roy Jones Jr.'s a counter punch right there. But no, seriously, that's absolutely true. Who wants it? Got to show they want it. They're 35, they're 36 years old. AJ is on his way out. So if AJ's on his way out, they don't have time to fuck around. They don't have time to do that. You know what I mean? Because AJ, the cash cow, if the cash cow's leaving, they don't have that type of time, and these opportunities are leaving. See, Wilder admitted to Tyson, I got offered more money to fight Anthony Joshua, but I'm going to fight you because I kept my word, because he thought he had a pact with Tyson Fury. He thought he had somebody that he was going to confide with that was going to make him rich, which eventually, it actually did. Because Wilder, if it wasn't for the Tyson Fury fights, he wouldn't have the money that he has now. Fighting Luis Ortiz, you think that did it? No, it didn't. Right? So, Kurt, I always enjoy your show very much. Keep up the good work every day, every time. Appreciate you, Jax. Man, Winters Holiday. Jacoris, I think Wilder seriously needs to consider retiring because he's not the Wilder, literally. Tyson ended his career also those losses he took from Parker, and Zhang really took the cake. Well, I don't think it was more or less Parker. I think it was more Zhang. I think Zhang damaged Wilder. You know what I mean? He just, but the Zhang fight wasn't as bad as people thought it was. Yeah, he got hit. Yes, I think those are damaging blows, but it was only really 2 blows. The first right hook and then the second that ended him. So he was actually spared from getting a continued ass whooping round after round after round. See, those are that type of punishment will kill you. Those are the type of punches that you take will damage you. And then that's how you can end up on the gurney with a swollen brain in a coma, and you never recover. Constant violence, constant punches landed. Not that one punch, bow, that ends you, because you're pretty much spared, Some fighters can recover from getting KO'd. Some can't. Some, it takes a while to recover. But what happens, though, like Lennox Lewis got knocked out by Oliver McCall, but it took him 6 fights to get back in there with McCall. He didn't do that shit right away, but nobody cared about Lennox Lewis like that. He didn't have the pressure that guys like AJ had, because AJ, everybody expects more from AJ based on the money, based on the popularity, based on the expectations. And what happens, they expect AJ to do more because he's AJ. AJ is on a different level than Lennox Lewis as far as popularity. Skill, he doesn't hold a candle to Lennox Lewis. Popularity, fame, Lennox doesn't hold a candle to him. You see what I mean? So, yes, AJ's expected to do more, but Lennox wasn't, because nobody really cared. Because, you had Frank Bruno, and people love Frank Bruno over Lennox Lewis anyhow. Okay? So, that's how that was. McCall was crying during that fight. He was crying in the second fight because the man was on drugs and he was mentally unstable. Anybody with common sense could see either he was threatened by DK or something else was going on with that man. He didn't want to be in that ring, people. Maybe Wilder winner, one fight versus Fury because referee took too long to count. Are we talking about the third fight? Yeah, I mean, whatever. I mean, he counted the same. If he counted fast for Wilder and slow for Fury, you may have a point, but that didn't happen. That dude counted the same way both times and each time. So you had 2 knockdowns for Fury and then 3 knockdowns for Wilder. The 3rd, the 7th, and the 11th. Yeah. Thumbnail is kind of fire. Appreciate you, brother. I think AJ still holds the record for the amount of time it took to sell out MSG. I think he did too. I don't think anybody sold that fast. But keep in mind, you know, I mean, this is 2019 when he did that, him and Jarrell Miller. And understand, I want people to give Jarrell Miller credit for selling that damn fight. It wasn't just AJ. I mean, people came to see AJ because people knew, and we seen the Klitschko fight on Showtime because it was aired on Showtime. That's back when Eddie Hearn and Al Heyman were cool. When they were cool, that's when that was, that was when that was aired over here. This was before the Zone popped into the question, okay? So Eddie Hearn and Al Heyman, they shared each other's feeds network-wise. So when AJ fought, it showed on Showtime here in the States, right? When Wilder and all those guys fought, it showed on Sky Sports. So everybody could see and have access to these fights across the pond. You see what I mean? So, but we seen that Vladimir fight. It was fire. Bro, I had people that don't watch boxing. These were UFC guys. And they were like, bro, did you see Klitschko versus this Joshua dude? That shit was good. You know what I mean? And they didn't even, a lot of people, that watch UFC because it was like a divide back then when UFC was fire in the States. And then boxing was, right? But we seen that fight, and that fight showed that, hey, there is action in boxing. If you're not even a boxing fan, that's how good the fight was. So from that reputation, people knew who Joshua was. He was collecting belts like Thanos collecting Infinity Stones, and he was coming over here to defend his belt on a voluntary because he was a unified champion. Do you think Wilder hits harder than Foreman? No. I don't think Wilder knows how to punch like Foreman because Foreman, he was not just a one-handed puncher. Wilder is. I don't think that jab does anything for him. He might. I think he's just a right-handed, one-sided or one-armed fighter. Whereas George Foreman could hit you with a left hook. He could hit you with a right hook. He could hit you with a left hook upstairs, a right hook upstairs, an uppercut that will decapitate you, a straight right, a chopping right, an overhand left. Bro, the dude can punch you to your body and make you defecate everything that you've ate. Bars. Whereas Wilder, right hand. Foreman, both hands. Even-handed punching power assault machine. Mean, lean, fat-reducing George Foreman machine. That's what he was. Shout out to George Foreman. God bless the dead. So, yeah, no, that's no George Foreman and Wilder now. Wilder's speed in his hardest punch has lost its speed since the Zhang fight. It's probably just broken down, maybe. But again, I have to remind people, we don't know how this process for Wilder will be. Maybe he will look better. But if he's sparred 491 rounds, I don't think that helped him because it didn't help his performance that night. Because with that many rounds that you have in the bag, that's supposed to reflect what you do, under the lights in the ring, right? And I didn't see that. So either somebody's lying or he shouldn't be doing that many rounds because it's not helping him. That's all you got, George. Crawford beating Spence comes close. I think AJ was best with Rob McCracken. Should I have stick with him all the way? Carl Froch would agree. Foot news. Let me tell you something. Rob McCracken wasn't there. I don't think Rob McCracken had the time to spend with AJ. I think AJ was a guy that I think AJ was looking for his customato, and Rob McCracken really wasn't that no longer because he still had the GB team. He still had other things. He still had other fighters that he had to commit to, and he didn't have the time to deal with AJ. That's why is it Fernandez? Angel Fernandez. That's why he was around him a lot. Wilder isn't a good student of boxing. Christopher, I don't think so. Then he's coming off, and you got to remember, Wilder's coming off an injury. So he just had surgery, right? So a lot of those things. Yeah, it's Fernandez. Okay, so that's why Fernandez was there. It was almost like Marvin was to Freddie Roach, right? The Filipino Marvin that spent a lot of time with Freddie Roach's fighters, because Freddie was either busy dealing with his illness or messing or dealing with another fighter. I used to spa Angel Fernandez. His real name is Mikey. Okay. AJ's best was missed when he left Garcia. Well, that wasn't going to work, people. The Garcia-AJ collaboration really wasn't a good one. If you knew what went down between those guys, it wasn't good. It wasn't good at all. Robert Garcia wanted AJ to come to California, which AJ didn't want to do. But then AJ went to Texas for Derek James, and it just showed you that a loss makes you redefine what you have to do. See, Robert wanted AJ to come to this California, and he didn't want to do that because he had this big team, 258 management, and they were pretty much talking to Robert any kind of way, and Robert was wanting to get back on the plane and go to hell home because he's like, dude, I'm tired of this shit. I got fighters back home. If you don't want to do what I need you to do to be victorious or successful, I won't do it. But the whole thing about it, though, money talks and BS runs a marathon. And because that happened, because the money was there, I think that swayed Garcia to stay. But that doesn't mean he enjoyed it or liked it. I think he did it for the cash because it's AJ, right? I still don't know how Holmes got up when Shavers hit him. Grit, spirit. Yeah, that was there. Yeah, I think the chemistry between AJ and Garcia. AJ looked good against Usyk in the second fight. I want Bivol versus Apataya undisputed cruiserweight. I think Bivol needs a fight or two at cruiserweight first if we have that type of time. The way we are rushing through these fights, expecting them to get made because Turki Al-Sheikh is waving around his magic wand and making these things happen. I think we're getting spoiled to the idea of making these fights because it's like, what's stopping you now? Because Turki will be like, boom, done. And it just shows you over the years of the bull that we put up with negotiations, with he said, she said, this happened, this network, that network. And we still didn't get to see the fights that we wanted to see. Then all of a sudden, Turki Al-Sheikh comes around and done. And it makes you think, you guys were a bunch of bullshitters this whole time because these fights should have been getting done if one guy could come in and come around and make them done. How can you dudes do that? Or you groups of people in your businesses or in your promotional companies couldn't get it done with talking about contracts and shit. Oh, these contracts are not ready. They're not going to be ready until this. You remember that, all that stuff. Monday's the deadline. Okay, well, we got these fights like that with Turki. So how in the hell we get these fights this fast with Turki Al-Sheikh and you guys were talking like it was some kind of slow process that some computer generated AI system was making this happen or something. It didn't make sense. Kurt, who you got? Lawrence Okola versus Jermaine Franklin. Probably Lawrence Okolie based on his height. Jermaine Franklin has problems with taller guys. That's why he had issues with Joshua, because Joshua was tall. See, someone like Joshua, that tall, 6'6", fighting someone like Jermaine Franklin, all he had to do was stand tall and work the jab. Just like Joshua, how he beat Andy Ruiz is how he beat Jermaine Franklin. He knew how to do that. He knew how to put punches together, because you're looking down at someone's shoulders, bow, bow. And you got someone like Jermaine Franklin, he's not that mobile, you know, because he's a big dude. Even though he lost a lot of weight for the AJ fight, I commend him on that, because he actually made an attempt to get in shape, to be ready, to be prepared, and he went 12 rounds, almost started a riot after that fight. You guys remember that? And then it had you understanding like something wasn't quite right with AJ either. AJ had some type of, you know, character flaw or chip on his shoulder. It's like, you know, you still mad over the Usyk fight? Yeah, he wasn't the same. Usyk too small for Fury. Small after undisputed. Yep, that's what they said. And I have to remind people, when Crawford beats the shit out of Canelo, Franklin came to go 12 rounds. He kept going underneath. AJ's arms making it hard for AJ to land on him. I didn't think there was anything wrong with AJ. You know, I don't know what the issue was, though, because it's not like Jermaine Franklin did something to AJ. AJ kind of shoved his head, and, you know, and Jermaine Franklin kind of like, dude, what? This fight's over. You talking this tough man shit and doing all this, and you know what I mean? You know, you shoved me, and you know what I mean? So then he kept talking to him like, yeah, you know, I'm talking. Like, bro, I'm trying to tell you, there's a dark side to AJ that you might not like. That James St. Patrick ghost shit. That's AJ. Remember his name was Ghost for a long time? I think he took it down right now. Too small, but beat a 6'9" Fury. Yep. Usyk is too small, too light. Yeah. And he battered Tyson Fury all around the ring, didn't he? Usyk already beat AJ twice, so I knew he was not too small for Fury. Nikki Blue Eyes Austin in the building. Kurt, what about damn, I just missed it. It's crazy. The one you wanna. My battery is on 4%. It's been a pleasure as always. I said it before. Wilder is not the same in my opinion. Nikki Blue Eyes Austin, take care of that juice. Get some more juice. That juice is getting loose. Appreciate the love. He was frustrated because Franklin didn't come out to fight. He came to survive, and it pissed AJ off. I don't know. No matter what people say, AJ fought best when he was heavily muscled. Klitschko, Povetkin. I wonder what the concussion did for AJ. I do wonder that. I wonder what that meant. Mike Tyson versus Sonny Liston. Who wins? Mike Tyson versus Sonny Liston. I don't know, man. I don't know. Because, I mean, I think you could call it. I think that's a coin toss like fight, you know? You think Mike was such a better boxer with impregnable defense? I think Mike Tyson was a lot faster than people gave him credit for. I think AJ was frustrated. AJ is the best of this era, in my opinion. Can't be the best in his opinion. It can't be. AJ can't be the best of this era if he got beat. You know, you could say that, you could argue that AJ's out of his prime and he ain't the same dude, and that's true. But then you say he's the best of this era. No, Usyk is the best of this era. Now it's time for Wilder versus White. Both look completely washed. Let's see it. Christopher CG. When Mike used that nonstop peekaboo style, he was damn near unbeatable. I mean, because he wouldn't stop moving. Imagine somebody you're jabbing and he's you're like, oh my goodness. Mike was terrible, and it was you imagine someone you know, bro, no. Yeah, that Tyson peekaboo, it was absolutely horrifying to people. You got a guy, short, quick, fast, powerful, durable, mobile. Kurt Lawrence and Cullen versus Stephen Shaw would be interesting. Yeah, I would like to see that actually. I think that would be a pretty good fight that could be made. I think Lawrence Akali, though, he's too ambitious to fight someone like Stephen Shaw. Facts, he was like a power punching Usyk, just nonstop movement. You couldn't land a clean shot. He was so effing fast. I think that would have been a problem for a lot of people. Mike Tyson was just by himself in an era by himself. So Tyson in the 80s, Roy Jones in the 90s, 2000s belonged to Manny Pacquiao based on what he did because he came out of nowhere. And then the rest, I don't know. Pick one. Pick one. You know. Wilder versus Miller. The winner gets Swift. Jarrell probably say, I already have it. I'll bust the first. I think when Usyk beats Triple D, we will see Fury come back and fight Usyk. That will be Usyk's last fight. Well, here's the deal. I think I think if Usyk beats Dubois, you won't see Tyson. I think what happens is if Dubois beats Usyk, Tyson's going to come back because he's going to fight Usyk. I'm going to fight that big, stiff idiot. He's a stuttering prick. Dubois is a child. I'll outbox him. I'll beat him 7 days a week and twice on Sunday. And it's Sunday. You know. But then Frank would have an issue with that because he's like, bro, I have a young 27-year-old, undisputed, first of its kind, 4-belt era British champion, Daniel Dubois, versus the old lineal king, the man that got beat by the man, Tyson Fury. So I don't know, man. I think that will be definitely something that there would be interesting, and I can't wait to see it. You know, July is bringing a lot. Wait, what date is it? Okay, July is bringing a lot of fire. So expect a lot of videos, expect a lot of content, expect a lot of everything, but much, much more. I'm going to do a Patreon video right now. I thank you guys, love you guys, enjoy your Sunday, and everyone has been counterpunched. See you on the Patreon end, and you guys have a blessed day. Peace.